You're listening to the Sisters-in-Laws podcast, a faith-based podcast that spotlights Black women who replace silence with storytelling around pregnancy and infant loss and infertility. Black women experience miscarriage and stillbirth 4 to 5 times more likely than white women, according to the NIH and CDC. Whether you've experienced a miscarriage, infant loss, stillbirth, are trying to conceive, or have an infertility diagnosis, you will learn about resources and strategies to heal, gain clarity, peace, hope, and find an empowering path forward after loss. I'm your host, Erica M. McAfee, and you will hear me interview sisters-in-laws who have healed from such a painful and traumatic experience by sharing their testimonies and stories to inspire and help others turn their pain into their purpose. Now let's get started. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. So I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay, so my name is Karen Balumbu-Bennett. I am a licensed therapist out of Southern California. I actually am a school-based therapist by day. So I support individuals in middle school and high school who are in special education and maybe also have social emotional needs. And then I have a private practice where I specialize in women's and maternal mental health, more specifically working with the perinatal population. So those who are pregnant, so from conception to about a year after pregnancy, that's a very delicate time, and also supporting individuals who are struggling with fertility challenges.
Yes. But you have a story to tell about your own personal journey to motherhood. So I would love for you to take us back on that journey and share your fertility story.
Yes, I do have my own story. And that's what actually brought me into my specialty. So I struggled, myself and my husband struggled to get pregnant for about 4 years. We just thought, hey, we're married, we'll have some fun. And then when we're ready to have kids, it'll happen. And that was not the case. Something in me didn't want to wait that long. And normally the advice you get is that after a year of trying, then you go see a fertility specialist if you're under the age of 35. So I was 30 when we started. And I did not want to wait the full year. So after just a few months, and also because, the definition of trying to conceive is like they want to know that you're actively trying, monitoring your ovulation cycle, right? So I knew that I was off birth control for about 1.5 years and nothing happened. So we weren't trying to get pregnant according to the medical definition, but we weren't really trying not to. So when we really were like, okay, let's try to get pregnant, and it didn't happen within a few months, maybe about 6 months, I went to go see a doctor. And so that started the process of me getting tested and my husband getting tested. It was a long journey. We got a lot of mixed diagnoses. So first it was maybe it's a female factor, maybe it's male factor. We're not quite sure what's going on. So we tried IUI, intrauterine insemination. We tried that. I think 3 cycles. Yeah, we did 3 cycles of IUI. It didn't work out. That was devastating. That was probably the lowest part of my journey when we finally tried IUI. That was maybe 2 years into us just trying on our own, doing hormone therapy that the fertility clinics gave us, me finding herbs and researching stuff, So after about 2 years of that stuff, then we did IUI, and that was devastating because I just knew, I said, oh, this is going to happen. IUI is it. I had 2 friends who were also going through fertility challenges at that time. One did IVF and got pregnant. The other one got pregnant naturally. So I'm just like, okay, God, this is it. We've been praying together. We've been fasting together. So this is it. We're about to all get pregnant, and it didn't happen. So that was absolutely devastating. After that, it took about 1 year of not trying. And then we resumed trying to get pregnant again. This time around, I saw an acupuncturist. Is that the full acupuncturist, right? And got support that way as well. But she really thought, at that point, she looked at all of our records and she was like, I think it's more male factor. Like your partner's counts are just not optimal. They're not, and we heard this at the fertility clinic too. They're not the best, but they weren't that worried. I don't know if it was the patriarchy, but they just weren't that focused on him. And so she was like, you know what, we can do it. But by then I just was tired of waiting. And so I was like, no, I'm going to go to an IVF clinic, another one, and we're just going to do it. So, yeah, so it actually worked out for us. The first cycle of IVF, we were able to get pregnant and stay pregnant, and have our daughter.
That's amazing. So how was that journey through that pregnancy?
Woo! And I tell everyone my entire journey was difficult. Getting pregnant was hard. When I got pregnant, so I didn't even know I had fibroids because I didn't have any challenges with fibroids. So it wasn't until our fertility challenges that, with all of the ultrasounds you get, they're like, oh, you have some fibroids. We're not concerned about it. That's not what's keeping you from getting pregnant, but you may have some issues when you get pregnant. But they didn't really explain the issues. And I don't even know if they could have put it in words, because the type of discomfort and pain I experienced for the majority of my pregnancy, like probably from 11 weeks on, was difficult. So you're already so scared because you tried so hard to get pregnant, it doesn't work. Now you're pregnant, you have all these conflicting emotions, right? Like you're excited, but then I have fibroids, I'm in pain, I'm spotting, like, am I losing the baby? It was just the scariest experience. But then you're conflicted because society's telling you should be so excited. You want this so bad. So I didn't even realize how much I didn't share how scared I was. I didn't share how much in pain I was. Thankfully, I had a Black OBGYN who also experienced fibroids when she was pregnant, and she was very transparent with me, and she didn't play with me. She was just like, nope, we're putting you on disability. And I'm like, no, I can still work. Black women especially, I can do it. She's like, nope, not on my watch. She's like, if anything, you can only work 2 days a week, and you can't walk around your campus because I'm school-based therapist. They have to use a little golf cart to take you from point A to point B, get a disabled placard, filled out the paperwork from me, like take this to the DMV or AAA, wherever. I think I did AAA was easier. Get a disability placard, and like, you're gonna have this baby early. Like there was pretty much, you are gonna have this baby early. Now, how early you're going to have this baby depends on if you take good care of yourself. So even that was fearful. Like, I'm like, wow, I'm not gonna even go to term possibly. So it was just the emotional roller coaster of it all was so challenging. And when I didn't even realize how difficult it was until I finally had my daughter. And that's what really pushed me into wanting to support women, because I was just so focused on doing, and so focused on, we're going to have this baby, that I didn't really acknowledge all that I was feeling.
Yeah, that emotional journey that you were on and navigating the complexity of, it took me so long to get pregnant. Now, can I even enjoy this pregnancy now that I have all this other challenges of pain from fibroids, fibroids probably growing with the baby, degenerating as well. I'm sure there was just a lot of different pain that went along with that, but you definitely got your baby in the end. So how has that journey been parenting after your fertility challenges? I've been asking this question to a lot of people, especially for those of us who have babies that are here Earthside. Have you become more of a helicopter mom and more protective over her, especially since it took so much to get her here?
No, absolutely. I never really felt like I struggled with anxiety. I'm very cautious. I come from a very cautious mom who's always like, make sure you lock your doors, make sure you do this. And I'm, oh, mom. But you pick up some of that. I'm the one that's like, make sure you lock your doors, guys. But after having my daughter, I was like, oh no, I have anxiety. Like, this is something like I actually, and maybe I always had it a little bit, but having her, even now, she's 3, almost 4. But when the first year that she was born, that was very difficult. I just couldn't leave her with anyone. I was always worried about her when I did leave her. I'm still that parent that I've only spent 2 nights away from her. Like, I'm not ready to leave the country, without her. So I still have these anxieties and these worries that I have to work through. And even as a mental health professional, I have to really be patient with myself, be gentle with myself, but acknowledge that some of my fears, this world is scary, but some of it is like, I can't control everything, right? Like, I can't, and I have to let some of that go. I have to give some of that to God. Like, I have to really check myself. And then you throw a whole pandemic in the mix. I said, what? Because I had her in 2019. So February 2019. So literally after we celebrated her year birthday, thank God we were able to do that. COVID was here, but we just didn't know really in America, so I got to have a big first birthday for her. Come March, everything shut down. Right. So now I'm even more anxious. Now I'm even more fearful. Now I'm even more scared to protect her. What's going to happen to her? What if she gets COVID? We can't get COVID. Gosh, and then the world kind of opens back up and you send them to daycare. That's scary too. So it's been a journey. I mean, with her almost being 4, I feel like the fears are changing, but yeah, that anxiety is real.
Yeah, it's so real. And I don't even know if we have had a moment to really collectively grieve all that we've endured over these last 2.5 years. I mean, because we're kind of still in it too, right? So it's kind of like, all right, do we want to step back outside a little bit? But COVID is still prevalent, and then we have all these other respiratory things going on. So it's been difficult and challenging to navigate it. And I think I do recognize that it can be some form of anxiousness, some form of anxiety in people, but I don't know if everyone recognizes that. So I would love for you to talk about just your own journey, how you have really focused on the emotional side of things in your own personal journey, and then kind of how that has led you to doing this work to really help other families as they navigate through fertility challenges and getting pregnant and staying pregnant and bringing babies home.
Yeah. And, I recognize that I didn't care for myself probably right after I had my daughter, is when it really clicked. And then being in the pandemic, I really believe in journaling. I believe in like self-help tools, in addition to therapy, obviously. And one of the things that I was doing while I was kind of in this journey off and on of trying to get pregnant was I would journal here and there. And my journaling isn't always so formal. I do have a journal, but sometimes I'll just have a thought when I'm somewhere and I'll just kind of write in my phone. And that's a form of journaling. And so what happened was I started to look back after I had my daughter. I started looking back at some of the things that I was jotting down, and I started to realize man, you didn't really allow yourself the opportunity to grieve the experience you thought you were going to have as far as your journey to motherhood. You didn't give yourself an opportunity to grieve the experience you thought you were going to have when you were pregnant, or what you thought you were going to experience after you had a baby. Like all of these things were losses, right? And I wasn't really so focused on it because I was just so focused on getting pregnant, being excited that I was pregnant, that I didn't really understand all that I lost, right? Because there was loss there. And when I started to understand that more and process it more, I became more driven to just focusing on this specialty of supporting women. So as a therapist, you start to take more trainings, basically. You take more trainings, you get certifications if you find a specialty that you're into. So I started looking into more perinatal mental health and learning more about PMADs, because for so long we just thought about postpartum depression, but PMADs, perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, and really learning about that. And then even checking myself man, I wonder if you were kind of struggling with a little bit of an anxiety disorder, after you had the baby. Because I had a lot of thoughts oh no, I can't leave her with a daycare worker. I live in a condo building, the daycare worker or I couldn't leave her with an in-home babysitter without me being home, because what if she throws her over the balcony? These were thoughts that I was experiencing. And I just kind of would think it and then change my mind about, oh, we don't need a babysitter. I don't need to go anymore. But I wasn't really fully processing, again, myself as a whole mental health professional. I wasn't processing how that was tied into some anxiety. So I basically, what I did was, going back to my journal entries, I started to kind of expound on my journals, and I created a guided journal. So I created a guided journal to support individuals who are struggling with fertility challenges. So I started to share some of my stories on different seasons of the journey, and then give people some of that terminology, explain grief, explain trauma, explain cognitive distortions, and how you could, really struggle with false ideologies and false narratives, and then also provide them with guided questions to help people start to process, because this can be a very isolating situation. People don't always seek support. And so that's how I kind of journeyed into basically, oh, I want to create this journal. Oh, you should also get more training. Oh, you love this population. You should specialize in it. This should be your whole private practice. So complete like revamping from my own pain. I found my purpose. And that was a beautiful journey for me because I didn't really know what I wanted to specialize in as a therapist. I had a lot of different experiences, but once I really honed into this, I was like, no, this is it. Like I love women. I love supporting them. I love people who are trying to get past this hump of getting pregnant or even just expanding their family, because not everybody will have a successful pregnancy, and just like really being that support for them. And so that's what led me to this, to where I'm at now.
I love that. Love that. And I think what's even more key in this, which a lot of therapists who do this work may not have had that journey. So a lot of your connection with a lot of your clients is very personal because you've had a lot of that experience. You know what it feels like to go through that. And to have that in a therapist is key, especially a Black woman therapist. Because you understand the complexities of what it means at the intersection of showing up woman and Black in these birthing spaces and these fertility clinics with all of the doctors and medical support staff that are there, but also, like you said, some of that anxiety that we face too, when it comes to the structural and institutional racism that's in our healthcare system and how we should combat it and overcome it. And I think that is so key. And the reason why a lot of folks do gravitate towards having therapists that look like them, because they want to make sure that they're seen, they're heard, they're valued, and they're understood in these spaces. So thank you for answering the call based on your own pain and turn it into some purpose. So I would love to transition and talk about resources that you use, resources that you recommend to clients for therapy things, but also just other things that are out there. Because I think that not only is, talk therapy a form of healing, but there's so many other modalities, things people can do to get towards what healing looks like for them. So I would love for you to share some of your resources that you have.
Yeah. And when I was in my journey, I didn't really know. I didn't even look. And like I said, I didn't really focus on the hurt, the emotional hurt that I was going through. So I didn't even seek support. I didn't seek community, but it's so important. And so even platforms like yours, Sisters in Loss, Warrior Wednesdays with Calais Stewart, someone I recently connected with, Regina Townsend, who has Broken Brown Egg, another sister I recently connected with. These are great platforms. There's another one, Infertility and Me. That's Monique, I believe, I also connected with, Fertility for Color Girls. So there's these platforms out there that I didn't even learn about until afterwards. So Fertility for Black Girls, actually, a friend of mine posted them in her stories while I was starting my fertility challenges. Or starting my IVF journey. And so I learned about them right like on the tail end of my journey, right? Because I was doing it for about 4+ years. And then we finally did IVF. But I don't know why nothing clicked to me to go on social media and find community. So now it's so important for me to share what other people are doing in the space, to really highlight what other Black women or people of color are doing in this space. Because like you said, it's so important for people to feel connected. There's Facebook groups. I'm transitioning to try to be more of a Facebook user. I'm having a challenge with just managing all the social media platforms. But I say join a Facebook group, right? Join these newsletters that all of these amazing platforms that I just listed are offering. Join these communities because you need community. And Black women, someone just shared with me how research shows that Black women specifically really thrive in like group therapy. And it's funny because Black women will run away from group therapy so fast, like, who's not gonna be there? Like, I don't know, I don't want to tell my business. But research actually shows that we really thrive, which makes a lot of sense. It makes sense, right? I love doing group therapy. I love offering that. And so when this other therapist told me about it, I haven't looked at the study yet, but it just reaffirms that push that I always tell people who are struggling in this way, and especially if you're a woman of color, you need community. And there are platforms out there. There are, even if you don't want to do therapy, if you're not ready for therapy, there are platforms, and stay connected.
Yes, I was just listening to another one of my favorite podcasts, Therapy for Black Girls, and Dr. Joy had a therapist up there who mentioned group therapy, that study that you're talking about, that Black women do thrive better in a group therapy setting. Now, and this is different than actual like a support group, which is more peer led, like an actual therapy session with a licensed medical professional. And it blew my mind, because I was just like, I don't even know if I even thought that was an offering for us. And could be led by a Black therapist, a Black woman therapist, particularly, where we could offer each other up in that space, and it's not just like the strong emotions that you normally share in like a grief support group or some type of fertility support group, but it's actually therapy with other Black women. And it blew my mind, because I'm like, well, maybe I need to sign up for this.
Right.
because because of the studies and the fact that it is another offering for us. So for those of you who are listening, and you are on the fence about therapy, maybe a group therapy option may be available for you, outside of just like another peer-led grief support group, which is something that we offer too at Sisters in Loss. We have a partnership with Postpartum Support International to do that. But an actual group therapy offering could be something for you that's different than just a one-on-one talk therapy, where you could hear other people in community and see them, and then be more comfortable to offer up where you feel and where you are in your journey. So thank you for mentioning that, because I just remember listening to a podcast talking about that. And Therapy for Black Girls is another great resource too, you all, for if you're looking for someone who specializes in perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, or a perinatal mental health professional. You want to go down and scroll and make sure you get the right specialist.
Yes, yes.
So that you can get, because all therapists specialize in different things, as she mentioned.
Right.
So I would love for you to share any encouraging words you have for our listeners, those who have navigated through fertility challenges, who are, struggling with this anxiety that a lot of us are facing right now as we still are in this pandemic. What encouraging words can you leave with our listeners?
Yeah, I always just tell people, I like to remind everyone just to be gentle with yourself. Show yourself the same compassion that you would show your girlfriend, a friend of yours that was having a hard time, because it's hard. And, give space to just really sit in your feelings, allow yourself to feel, and allow yourself to take breaks, right? Like, this journey is hard for some. You're not alone. What, 1 in 8 couples struggle with fertility challenges, 1 in 4 pregnancies end in miscarriage. So this is not something that just you are experiencing, but it can be better, right? You can get what you're looking for. I say be flexible. Sometimes we have these ideas. I've met so many women too who, Black women, one reason I share about IVF is because I've met so many Black women who won't consider IVF, whether it's religious reasons, whether it's they just kind of have this idea of how they were supposed to, everything was supposed to line up. I was supposed to get married at 23, whatever number you came up with, and I was gonna have my first baby at 27. And IVF, what? Like this, So really just allow yourself to be flexible. Your journey to become a parent is your own beautiful, tumultuous, happy, sad, up and down, crazy, wild journey, but it's yours. And you have the ability and the freedom to change your mind and to change the way that you end up becoming a parent. And that's okay. That there's nothing wrong with that. That's your choice. And if you choose to not continue with the journey, that's your choice too. But definitely just give yourself space, and it can get better.
Absolutely. So where can we connect with you after this episode? Give us your socials for your private practice as well, especially for those who are local to Southern California. I want to make sure that they can reach out to you, because you're another resource.
Yes, yes. And I'm actually trying to transition to offer more groups too. So hopefully in the new year, I'll be able to offer more groups. So you can find me at KarenTheTherapist.com. That's my website. I'm also Karen the Therapist in IG on social media. You can also find, I have a wellness apparel line, and at my wellness apparel line, you can also find my journal. So that's shopKarenTheTherapist.com.
Love it. Thank you so much, Karen, for sharing your story and your light with us. I know that someone is going to be blessed by what you shared so far and definitely connect with you on social.
Yes, absolutely. I hope so. Connect, stay connected, ask questions. I love to redirect and refer people as needed.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. For show notes, go to sistersinloss.com. To stay connected with us and join the Sisters in Loss community and receive my weekly newsletter, please go to sistersinloss.com/newsletter. That is sistersinloss.com/newsletter. Please rate and review this episode, and I will talk to you next week.